welcome back to an all-new episode here on the Survivor podcast. As always, my name is Darius Cook, and today I am joined by improv comedy professional, host of the Scene Survivor improv comedy show inspired by Survivor. Today I am joined by Taylor Smart. Taylor, how are you doing today?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be a part of this podcast. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the name of the game today is Survivor 50. We are talking about the second episode of this season of Survivor. And between people pooping their pants, digging through people's bags, and an emotional blindside at the end, this was a doozy of an episode, and there is a lot for us to talk about.
Yeah, this was actually insane cinema happening in front of us.
It was. I think cinema is the correct way to describe it. And before we dive into it, just to get learn a little bit more about yourself, Taylor, I know that you started the Scene Survivor improv show. Can you tell the audience at home a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I host with the Corner Gallery Improv here in Orlando, Scene Survivor Improvival Island. It is a parody comedy show based around the premise of Survivor. So we have all those touch points that people love. Everyone's on a tribe. They have their buffs. There's award challenges, immunity challenges, elimination challenges. All of those things wrapped into one. And then everyone's competing to be the sole survivor. In the end, people are eliminated, and our jury is our audience. It's a fun way. So none of them are turning on each other, but the audience is kind of rooting for their favorite all the way to the end.
Yeah, I love it. I have not had the pleasure of seeing it yet, but I
Okay.
do. I have requested off for the next show. I believe it's next Friday coming up here.
Next
So
Friday, May 13th. Come on
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Next
not
Friday, March 13th.
yes, March 13th. I will be there. I cannot wait to see the show. And Taylor, before we dive into everything in this episode, how are you feeling about Survivor 50 overall? We're two episodes in,
Yeah.
5 hours deep at this point. What is your thought overall about how the show is panning out?
I love returning seasons. Please bring them back. Part of the reason I've struggled to get through the new era is like, I don't want to meet new people. Like, I just want to see characters that I love. And it's the same reason I loved Winners at War so much. Like, it was just a celebration of everything that Survivor is and what it means for people. Like, I know we're not talking about the premiere. I was crying throughout the premiere. Like, it's just, this show means so much. It has meant so much for the last 25 years. So I'm really enjoying it. I actually think it's interesting. Well, we can talk about it, but I was gonna say it's interesting. I felt like at Winners at War, the newer people came for those old people and like knocked them out, and we have a little bit of a balance of that happening on this season. So I'm excited to talk about it, but I am loving it. I also think this is one of the first Survivor seasons I've watched in real time. I've had to go back and like binge years of Survivor, which I love doing, but it's kind of fun, the anticipation and watching it all together with you and chatting step by step along the way.
I'm kind of new to it as well. Like I'm somewhat of a newer fan. I started watching in 2020, and so I caught up for Winners at War. But Winners at War had finished at that point, right? So I think
Right.
the first season I watched in real time was season 44. And I love being part of the week to week conversation. The Survivor community is so fun, and how, the theories and predictions and making fun of what people do. It's such a good time. To your point, we do have a mix so far in terms of who's going home, right? It's almost like a bumper situation. So we got Jenna Lewis as the first boot, and then
Yeah.
now between, spoiler alert, Savannah and Kyle being medevaced, we have the
Yeah.
most recent two winners, 48 and 49, and then somebody from the very first season. So it'll be interesting to see if we continue to balance it out from like old era and new era. And maybe
Yeah.
somebody in the middle will be the winner, like a Rick
Yeah, for sure.
Dalton or a Cliff.
Literally, like the median person will win, which is yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, that would definitely be very interesting. I have loved the season so far, and it's so true. Having a returning season, like it automatically makes it 50% more enjoyable. And I'm so much more compelled and bought into these characters and their plot lines. There's not going to be a single player this season who goes home that isn't going to break my heart, because we have history with these players and I'm rooting for them on a bigger level now, right?
100%. I know. Again, I know we'll talk about it in the episode, but when they were already talking about eliminating Joe, I was like, no, I want him to stay. Whereas, like, if that was his first season, I would have just been like, sorry, dude, that's how the cookie crumbles. And so
Well,
yeah,
you know what? I was gonna save this bit for later, but since you are a Joe stan, let's get into this right now. I was heartbroken that Joe went home. Or that Joe stayed. I wanted Joe to go home. I was ready for Joe to leave out of there. I wanted Savannah to stick around.
Oh, okay. Well, Joe in exchange, well, okay, I don't really like Savannah, but
Mm.
that's so funny. One of my notes that I was like, I'm sure we're going to talk about this. Like, I don't think Joe was playing aggressively, and I think that Rick Devens was being a absolute drama queen. Like, Joe was correct in saying, like, if you were going to invite me into a alliance, why didn't you? Why were you being weird about it? And obviously, we know why Rick was being weird about it, but yeah, so I was like, this is not the thing that Joe needs to catch flack for. Like asking someone why you whispered is not it's not crazy.
Yeah, okay, let's get into that. So
Great.
we are talking about the Sela tribe, right? And so this is throughout the episode, one of the big narratives was basically Joe versus Rick Devens. It's definitely not something I expected to see, these two people going head to head during this episode. But Joe seems like he's coming in with a major chip on his shoulder after season 48. Even though the fandom loved him and everything, he's gotten so much high
Yeah.
praise. He also sees how he was duped by Kyle and Camilla, right? And so it seems like he was triggered in this moment when he saw Rick Devens whispering to Savannah briefly. And I will say, I think it is to Joe's credit that he is playing a more guarded, more aware game. But
Sure.
we saw from multiple people in their confessionals that multiple people are feeling this way about Joe, that he's a little bit hard to play with right now.
Yes. Yeah. Right. The way it was edited to us was like he just freaked out that they whispered. And then Rick goes on to say to Joe's face, like, I've never had to play with a player like this before. And I'm like, what is he doing that is so different than any other person on this beach? Like I seriously do not think him asking that question is that crazy. And so um I think, and maybe we'll talk about this more, but like I do think I'm astutely aware of how this season is being edited to us. I
Mm.
think they're trying to honor all characters as best they can. And so I think, I don't know, I feel like there's some aspects of the editing that's playing into that. And again, I keep saying we'll talk about it later, but like with the ultimate elimination of Savannah, like it didn't seem, the editing did not lead us to believe she was going home. And then all of a sudden everyone voted for Savannah. And we were like,
I
huh?
know. It was ridiculous. It's something that kept me up late last night trying to wrap my head around why it was Savannah. And ultimately, I think I understand why they ended up going that direction. But let's I think we can circle back to this conversation.
Yes.
Let's look at the episode and all the components that led up to this vote ultimately, right?
Yes, yes.
Going into the episode, we got a quick check-in with the Vatu tribe, which I expected to be the chaotic, the messy tribe of the season. But so far, that's actually the Sela tribe back with Sari, Joe, Christian, and everybody. But the Batu tribe, it seems like Q kind of is seeming like the narrator of this tribe. And it seems like we could have an interesting dynamic between Q, Rizzle, Colby, and Stephanie. I think there's some interesting things they're setting up in this tribe, even though this tribe didn't have much interesting things to do during this episode.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was so offended when Survivor fans were like, this is the Chaos Tribe, like before the show even started. I will leave this caveat. I know Stephanie has said some things in the world that not everyone agrees with, and I will confess I don't even totally know what those things are. However, I do love Stephanie Palau. Season 10 Palau Stephanie, I love her so
Mm.
much. So I was absolutely rooting for her. I also love Q. So I was rooting for this tribe before the show even started. So I love that they're dominating well. And yeah, the dynamics that are kind of playing out are very interesting. But yeah, like you said, they weren't a huge presence in this episode, but we're getting nuggets of them, which hopefully means they go far and long. And those are some of our key players.
I hope so because the concept of Rizzo and Colby working together alone is something that I'm so endeared by. Then you
Yeah,
add in Q and Stephanie into the mix and Genevieve. It's such a fun thing to think about, and I feel like there's some, interesting strategic things that can emerge from that grouping. That being said, it looks like we're getting a tribe swap at into the next episode, so who knows where this is all going to leave, especially where Q and Colby both don't have their vote. So who knows if they're going to make it far? We will have to wait and see.
for sure.
And then I want to get into probably one of the biggest headlines of the episode. And this is the moment when
Scared.
Christian poops his pants. Wow. I don't think anyone but Christian could have pooped his pants and walked away from that scene with me loving him even more.
Yeah, no, I was watching it on play and I was like, he seemed so chill about this, of like, this is just the normal human experience. Like, if that was me, I would pay any winnings I had from that show to be like, please do not air this on national television. I've seen a lot of TikToks where people are like, he cannot be the first person to have done that. And so maybe other people are paying production to keep it off, and he just agreed to it. But an absolutely insane moment.
There are other moments where people have admitted that they pooped themselves on Survivor. I don't think they were as well documented as the moment of Christian. You know, you get that real time. I had to go back and rewind it because you see the look on his face when it dawns on him what just happened, and then, the fallout thereafter. And he had to insist on the camera looking away there for a moment, which I thought was interesting. He had to say like 3 times, I promise you don't want to see this. And eventually they cut away. Ridiculous moment doesn't lead anything for, strategy or anything like that, but probably will go down as one of the more memorable moments of the season.
Gosh, I guess I hope so. At the end of the day, some man did poop his pants. So like maybe we don't need to be talking about that, but yeah, I do think they left it in for a reason, and it just kind of humanizes the whole experience. Like this is very real. And I will say, as someone who's considered playing this game, who also has like some tummy issues, I have been like, and what would happen? And so watching that, I was like, oh, never mind, I'm never playing. I'm scared. I'm like, for
Yeah,
sure.
admittedly, I've pooped my pants in much less reasonable situations than being stranded out on an island. And so, yes, my heart went out to Christian. I think if it had to happen to anyone, I'm happy it happened to Christian because he
Yeah,
has such a good attitude about it, and I think no one is holding it against him too much.
for sure.
Moving on, we jump over back to the Vatu tribe, actually. This is probably the most eventful thing that happened on the Vatu tribe. We see a confessional with Genevieve, who found the Billie Eilish boomerang idol in the previous episode, and she has a suspicion that Aubrey might have one. She might have been the beneficiary of the idol, which in the moment she's wrong, but we find out later that she's actually correct. But then it leads to the entire tribe going through Aubrey's stuff while some of them distract Aubrey. What do you think? Should going through people's bags on Survivor be allowed?
Allowed's a strong word, but I think that it should have larger social consequences, in
Mm.
my opinion. Like, um, I'm trying to, because what am I trying to say? Colby makes a comment and is like, in the real world, that's totally against it. But here it's all bets are off. And like, I don't know, you are already incredibly vulnerable. You have like 2 pairs of underwear, you have nothing, you live in a shack. Like, can we all just have like one single place? And I also think, again, as someone who has considered playing this game myself, like if I had an idol, I'm a lady, and like there are only so many places you can hide it on your body, on your person. And I know Kelly Wentworth iconically has worn hers on her body for many a days, but like I worry it would fall out in the water, and now I have to tell production like it's got like what do you do? And so
Hmm.
no, I do not agree with going through your bag. I was a little shocked not a single person was like, maybe we shouldn't. Like they all were like, don't care, let's do it. Although I do wish we got more of Aubrey's reaction. Like I think I would notice if someone went through my bag. There's no way they put that back perfectly. And we
Mm.
did not get to see her reaction to opening the bag or like going back to her stuff.
I'm of two minds when it comes to can someone go through somebody else's bag on Survivor. On one hand, whatever makes the best TV, right? I understand why
Sure.
production allows it because it's juicy, it's fun, it's chaotic. They might get caught. It leads to interesting stuff, right? That
Yeah.
being said, a part of me just feels like, wow, exactly what you just said. We already have so limited ways to kind of keep stuff to ourselves. Now that this is like a precedent within the game, it's a little bit of a tough pill for me to swallow. That being said, I did post a TikTok this morning asking this very question, and every comment was like, yes, they should be able to. It's like everyone agrees that this is just the way that it should be. And it's happened enough times now that anyone going on Survivor should never keep anything in their bag. It's almost a waste of time to check it because you would be such a fool to leave an advantage in your bag at this point, right?
Yeah. This was also a moment, well, I guess not this exact moment, but later in the episode when it is revealed that Aubrey is gifted an idol, it made me wonder, like, was that just editing? Like, did she have it at that time and was being suspicious? Because eventually, like, when Genevieve was talking about it, they show a clip of Aubrey walking off into the forest or jungle with her bag. And then when it's later revealed that she finds a mysterious package in her bag, it almost looks like the same clip from a different angle. And so I was like, so maybe their tenacious, like their assumption wasn't wrong. They just didn't find it. And so they edited it in this weird way. Um,
That's
but
interesting. I didn't consider that. I was trusting the production wholeheartedly, but
no.
I would be ashamed if that was the case because Genevieve deserves the credit for, having that right instinct. It's interesting because as the edit would lead us to believe, she had a prediction essentially. She had a premonition of what the truth is, but now that they've gone through her bag, they can essentially exonerate Aubrey and assume that she doesn't have any advantage, even though she does.
Yeah. No, I guess you're right. I think I guess if I was production, it would have made more sense to edit that whole thing and immediately then play the clip of Aubrey having it and Aubrey confessing where exactly she is holding it. Like if I was the producer, I probably would have asked her to say that so I could add it in the show.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need to add this caveat. It's such a random tidbit, but I recently read Escape by Stephen Fishbach, which is an incredible survivor book. Well, it's not even about survivor, it's a nonfiction book about a survival reality TV show. But it dives deep into like how shows are produced. And so I will never watch reality TV again the same way because I will be like, did that actually happen or did they just get that person to say that so they could edit it in a certain way? So fresh off that book. I read it like a week ago.
Oh
So
my goodness. I want to read it so bad. It's actually sitting on my stand in my living room amongst my other pile of books that I mean to get to right now. Would you recommend it though? Is it a good read?
yes, it's a very, very good read. Stephen Fishbach is so much more than just a survivor player. Like he is an actually good writer. I was just intrigued in the writing style. And then the premise was really great. And if you're a fan of reality TV, then you'll love it. Yeah, big fan. He references a lot of shows, like he references actual shows that are in pop culture as well. So it's not this whole fake fantasy world. It's just like an offshoot of our world, which I really loved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is the motivation I need to crack that book open. It's been sitting
Yeah.
there collecting dust for a couple weeks now. So right on. I can't wait to dive into that. Well, speaking of diving in, we do get a fun moment where Coach decides to join Jonathan on a fishing adventure to prove that he's still got it. Coach, he's this adventurous seeking guy. However, he's quickly humbled and is reminded of how old he is now in the form of getting a double cramp out in the middle of the ocean. What did you think about how the scene played out?
This is insane. Not insane. It's actually incredibly believable that this is exactly how this would play out. That Coach would attempt to be high and mighty, and then be humbled in seconds, and then not even like realize he's being humbled, but turn it into some major life moment. Like I will admit I am not a Coach fan. I don't necessarily fault Survivor producers for putting him on this season. He is incredible television, but like every time that man opens his mouth, I can't stand it. And so I was like, no, this is what you get.
The way he handled it was the most Coach reaction to this happening possible, where like it's a double cramp, I can barely walk, like, woe is me. Now he has to fight through the hardest thing possible. Yeah, it was classic Coach. Made even better with Mike White narrating the whole thing off to the side. Mike White should just be like a permanent addition to Survivor where he's just making fun of people as the game's going on from the side because his narration just added more like mustache twirling evilness to the whole scene.
Yeah, I think he gives like a direct look to camera, which I know that they ask people not to do because everyone wants to have that moment. But I love that Mike did it and they kept it in because it was incredible. Yeah, no, coaches, we need to shut Coach down for sure.
So, speaking of Coach, I actually forgot to touch down on this for a moment. And at the beginning of the episode, before they get into the challenge, we see Coach and Ozzy kind of butting heads once again, the classic narrative between these two guys. Where do you stand on the Coach versus Ozzy debate in terms of how the whole key situation was handled back in the first episode?
It's so hard to say because we're not in the moment, right? And like we all, I think my natural instinct is to be like, if they actually played that game for 45 minutes, I also probably would have made the same declaration that Ozzy did of like, whoever knocks this dang key off, like, please have it. I would like to be done with whatever is happening. And so that would be my natural instinct. I think he was on board with that. I I mean, coach is not wrong that he didn't agree to those terms and then was sleazy about it, but um I think back to just like not not enjoying coach, like it's annoying that he's so hung up on the like honor thing. It's like, I don't know, Ozzy just said exactly what happened and you're like, how dare you? And it's like, what narrative do you want? Like, you did lie and steal. Well, I don't know. Whatever. You did whatever you had to do to get that key, but you should stand 10 toes down on that instead of like tell some narrative that isn't true and then be mad when someone tells the exact narrative, you
No,
know?
that's exactly right, right? Like I want to respect Coach for doing it. Like when he actually
Yep.
took the key, I was like, this is what we need out of Coach. This is a version of Coach who can win. But the second that he hears the narrative that Ozzy is telling, which is really just the truth, he you see him trigger right back into Dragon Slayer, Mr. Honor Coach that we've seen time and time again on Survivor. I feel like there's a version of Coach that we could see this season that actually does well. I think, day one, day two coach is coming in with the right mindset, but I think quickly he's going to revert back to himself and fall into the same trappings where he just gets caught up on this word honor, which is just a cloud hanging over so many people's heads in the game of Survivor. We see it come up in the conversation between Joe and everyone else in his tribe, really, this thing about honor and honesty, loyalty within the game of Survivor.
Yeah. I feel like I don't exactly know what happened in South Pacific. That is a season I have not watched, but it is coming off very much so that coach is still very bitter that he lost $1 million. And he blames a lot of that on Ozzy, although I did look this up. Like it wasn't a one vote game, even if Ozzy switched his vote, so if he still would have won. So I don't really know why coach is like that bitter about it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I will say he blames Ozzy because and everyone talked about this on the post game of that season
oh, okay.
that Ozzy when he was voted off was talking down on Coach to everyone. So he was this loud voice, telling the jury, Coach is full of this, full of that, that's why Ozzy is blamed for that, at least at the time.
Yes, I see, I see. Okay, well, either way, he still seems very bitter. And I've never been that close to $1 million, so maybe I would also be bitter. I'm not sure, but I hope this storyline, and maybe they're back to like the power of editing. Like maybe we're being fed this storyline because it really does like come to fruition later on in the game. We don't know.
Yeah. We'll see. It'll be a blast from the past if we end up with a final three of Coach, Ozzy, and Suri. I mean, that would just be
Yeah,
poetic justice for the history of Survivor.
for sure.
Moving on a little bit, and we talked about this briefly. This is the moment when Christian Hubicki finds the Billie Eilish boomerang idol that is on his beach. What I want to ask you is, what do you think about Christian's choice to send it to Aubrey? What do you think about his pick? And largely, what do you think about the Billie Eilish boomerang idol as a Survivor mechanic in general?
Yeah. Well, I like it as a mechanic. I think it really does play this very interesting part of the game component. Like it is quite a no, it's a quite a choice, I guess. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it's quite a choice that they have to make. And so I'm really enjoying it. I don't know who I'd send it to. As far as Christian sending it to Aubrey, I also have not watched Korong, so I don't know what Aubrey's game looks like, and so I don't totally know if that's a good or bad choice. Um, but she clearly needed it. Again, back to the editing told us that she really needed it and she was feeling down, and so I'm happy for her to get some life back into the game because I will say there was a lot of hype I feel like around Aubrey, and then they right before that clip we get this like I'm having an awful time, I feel like an outsider, and I was like, oh no, are we about to lose this girl, or like is
Mhm.
she just gonna accept her fate? And so it was nice to just give her some energy, whether or not Christian knew that. But it was nice to see her get a nice little boost in the game.
Yeah, I love the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol. I'm just gonna start calling it Boomerang Idol. It's a mouthful, but I
Yeah,
think it is the coolest mechanic that they've introduced into the game in such a long time. And I like how it can be used in different ways, right? When Genevieve gets it, she's sending it to Ozzy because she picked Ozzy as someone who she thinks will be foolish enough to go home with it in his pocket, right? So she's
right.
preying on Ozzy's downfall with it. She's hopefully setting him up. And then in Christian's case, he's using it as a social cachet. He's investing in Aubrey as someone he might be able to work with in the future. And I think that she would fit into their nerd alliance pretty well.
Yeah.
between Rick Devens, Christian, and Emily at the moment, she would round out the team pretty well. So I think they're both interesting and valid approaches to how to use the idol. I'm hoping that the third one is discovered before they do this tribe swap because I want to see how other people like perceive it and how they end up using it in the game. Because I hope that this is an advantage that sticks around. And I think we're just scratching the surface on the different ways to think about it, you know?
For sure. It also makes me curious if there's other idols and they just aren't finding them, like an idol that can stay on said beach or what, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we haven't seen any regular idols this season yet. So yeah, we'll see. I'm very interested about that as well.
Yeah.
You know, there's a quick scene that we touch back over with Vatu, the messy tribe this season, right? And we see a little bit of tension from Q and some of the old school players about other people not pulling their weight on the team, right? Q's quick to call Rizzo lazy. He calls Angelina lazy. I'm just curious, how do you feel about this? Do you think, especially at this point in the new era of Survivor, do you think like doing the work around camp is as important? And if you were on this tribe, would you fall into the Q camp of things, or would you fall more on the Rizzo Angelina side?
This is one like I don't think anyone would know how they are going to react until they are in Survivor. Like I do think I as a player would be astutely aware of my energy usage quickly. Like if I have nothing but coconuts fueling me, like I don't know, dude. I don't know how much I'm going to be like building a shelter and chopping down bamboo. And so it's hard. I think no matter what, the workaround camp is your social currency though. Like if you're not, it's the first thing that's going to get you kind of your name thrown out there of like this person's dead weight, they're not doing anything. And so I would imagine I would step up for that reason and that reason alone. But it is interesting when there are characters who have watched 50 seasons of Survivor and opt to still do nothing. Like that is kind of a crazy approach to it, especially when you have people like Q and Colby on your tribe. Like those are big men that are like, okay, let's get this done. And all you really need to do is show like a little bit of initiative and you're good to go. You don't have to build the whole shelter. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting. And so yeah, I think you do need to do that. I don't agree with doing nothing and assuming you'll be okay. Cause yeah, we're not in the stage of laziness is gonna work right now.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, I would be Q. I would totally be Q here. And I don't think that's even the smart position to be. Like, I don't think that's the strategic, like a good place to be. But emotionally, this is me in my workplace. If I feel like I'm doing all the work and people aren't doing their share, I get very annoyed by that. This is leads to many ha fights in my household, with my wife even. So that is something that I could see myself falling into the Q camp. Now, when I zoom out a little bit and think about the state of the game, the new era of Survivor. If I'm Rizzo, I'm probably thinking we're getting a tribe swap soon, right? This is Survivor 50. We
Yeah.
want to see these players mix around. And so I have to imagine, and it's in his head that we might not even be on this beach very long. The whole game's 26 days. By the time we're getting this confessional, it's day 5, I believe. And so is it really important to do that much? Probably not. So, you know, I'm of two minds of it. As a viewer, I think it's not great to be Q, but as a player, I think I'd be the Q.
Yeah, I think Q is the natural human reaction. Like you said, it's a argument in your own home. I think back to like when I was in college, like my roommates used to go at it for people who weren't taking out the trash. And it's like that this is a basic thing, doesn't require a lot of energy, but now you guys hate each other because of it. And like that might cost you $1 million. So yeah. But at the point that it's only a 26-day game and like why am I investing all this time in building a shelter that I could leave in any moment? I also get that too.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's interesting though, because this is leading to Q maybe being more aligned with the old era players, which is not something I would have predicted coming into the season. But
Yeah.
he's over here, big, you know, he's talking crap with Colby and Stephanie over here, being like, oh, these people aren't pulling their weight, you know. He's kind of
Yeah,
fallen into an old era mindset, which I just think is interesting for Q.
for sure. I do think at this state of the game, you do have to kind of latch on to anything that isn't aligning with the rest. And so we'll never know if Q actually cares about the state of the thing of the uh, beach, or if he's just playing a game where he's trying to get in good graces with Colby and Stephanie because he can tell that that's important to them. We'll never know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we see the results of that moving forward. And at this point, you know, we're basically back to the Sela tribe, who is again going back to tribal council, not the tribe I would have thought would have been the losing disaster tribe coming into the season. You know, they have Joe, they have Ozzy. I thought that they were going to do well in these challenges, but here they are back at tribal council again. I thought that this was interesting. Like I said, I was losing sleep over the results of this vote. I was not picturing Savannah going home, but it's interesting once I look back at it, they do lay it all out, right? They start off on Savannah, but they say, but we're gonna have to get Joe on board, or else we'll all be in trouble if Joe isn't on board. So then the what we see after that is, the potential vote going on to Joe or going on to Ozzy, but all of those are just distractions for
Yeah.
ultimately the same goal at the end of the day, of getting Savannah out. What did you think of this whole tribe scramble, this fake out plan? What did you think about how this all played out?
This is like where I would lose it as a player. This is where I lose it as a viewer of like I can't keep up with the voting blocks and like who's doing what. And this is like classic. This is what would trip someone up. This is what would get me eliminated, right? Like I'm not able to think 7 steps ahead of everybody. I was like perplexed. I'm like, and at what point did everyone go, okay, it is Savannah? And like I think it's Emily, maybe. Someone says like the classic new era survivor not picking a person until the final moment. And I was like, what? Like so that part is all crazy to me. Of like I just am unclear at what point it was like, and that's our girl, you know?
Yeah, it was messy. It was a little all over the place.
Yeah.
But a lot of the conversations I thought were super interesting and compelling, right? We got to see a moment where Sari was doing her Sari magic, where she's implanting ideas in other people's heads, right?
Yeah.
And that was really to be protective over Ozzy. And I thought that Sari was going to be successful in moving everyone onto Joe. Of course, Savannah catches this at the corner of her eye. She picked up on all of that.
Mhm.
Then, we saw Rick Devens obviously moving against Joe. It's interesting with all the drama between Joe and Devens and all the confessionals that we saw of how hard it is to work against Joe, that it still ended up being a consensus vote on Savannah, right? I didn't see that coming at all. But it seems like the writing was potentially on the wall because at the final tribal council, we do see Savannah giving a form of a goodbye speech, right? Talking about everything she's learned over the course of her time on Survivor, the most recent winner coming immediately back. And so it seems like she was maybe even aware that she might have been in trouble tonight, even though I wasn't expecting it from my couch.
Yeah, for sure. No, this is another like maybe we're just not seeing the full edit and it was left on the cutting room floor. I do think once she was announced to leave and she went to go get her torch, like I did look at her and I was like, that girl looks exhausted. And so like maybe we don't know how exhausted she was coming off 49 immediately and going into the biggest season of Survivor. And just that social warfare of like, do I tell them that I won? If I don't tell them, will Rizzo tell like and just trying to deal with all that and start fresh and start at the bottom of like she and Rizzo obviously were the only like absolute unknowns at this time. So yeah, I think once her torch was snuffed, I was like, go get some sleep, eat a cheeseburger, like you need it.
Savannah, I don't know if you know this, there was 9 days in between her last
Yeah,
season and this season. That is crazy. It's actually crazy. And
yeah,
unfortunately, she never really found an ally on her tribe either. So I was definitely sad to see her go. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just endeared towards her after the most recent season. I've been seeing her on TikTok. Savannah feels like a friend at this point, and seeing her go, it hurt my heart a little bit. That
yeah.
being said, during this tribe scramble, my favorite moment, and honestly, all of my favorite moments this episode was from Christian's perspective. It's Christian being under the hammock of Joe, gently rocking him, whispering little nothings into his ear, trying to make sure that Joe is okay with the vote. And I think that revealed the most about how this ended up playing out is they were worried. The reason why they almost didn't go for Savannah is because Joe could have been the thing to make it all fall apart. He might have told
Right.
Savannah, she has an advantage that we don't know about. And so that's why they needed Christian to really get Joe okay with it, as he was literally lulling him into, this vote that they were going with.
Yeah, no, I was watching this and I was like, I'm waiting for the moment where Joe goes, "Hey, dude, what are you doing? Why are you rocking me?" But like, it never comes, and clearly I was like, maybe this is just Survivor currency. Like, I'll rock your hammock if you vote the way I want you to vote.
I was delighted when I saw that Christian Hubicki was on the cast of Survivor 50, and I knew that we'd get some fun moments with him, but he has already overly exceeded that for the season. If he goes out in the next episode, we've already gotten great Christian Hubicki content for worth the whole season. He is seriously just a delight. And I'm even more delighted when he decides to tell Rick Devens, his bestie in the game, about the Billie Eilish idol that he sent out to Aubrey. And then the two of them start scheming about hiding a fake idol at tribal council. What do you think about this whole plan?
Again, maybe I'm just too dumb for Survivor. I was a little confused about like what is the final plan. I was like, okay. And then when I guess I didn't totally realize it was for a future council. I thought Rick was just gonna like fake pick it up at that one. And so I mean, I thought it was executed beautifully. Do I totally know the full plan? No, but like the fall was insane. And like I'm kind of surprised like that Jeff didn't catch Rick hiding it, and maybe he did and they just didn't show us his POV or what. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how it plays out because I'm a little confused on my end.
So there's a lot that goes into this, right? And yes, the actual like and this defines their relationship perfectly of being Spock and Captain Kirk together, right?
Yeah.
Christian falling over while Rick is hanging back to hide the idol. Perfect. And we really haven't seen something like this. You know, we've seen someone, hey, take them off to the side while I search their bag. We've seen that plenty of times, but we haven't seen this literally do a crazy, foolish distraction while I go do this crazy thing. And there is a precedent for an idol being hidden at tribal council. However, it's never happened in the US franchise. It's only happened in Australian. And back, you know, let's go back to Winners at War. We saw Adam Klein on his way out try to, you know, he attempted to pull an idol.
Yeah.
Right. So this is in everyone's mind. I think it's very astute of Rick Devens to actually plant this idol. Now, why is he doing it? That is not clear to me, right? They don't
okay.
they don't really yeah. No, it's not just you. They don't really describe what their actual end game plan is for the idol, but I have some theories, okay? So and I think if Rick Devens is smart, he's setting up contingency plans. And if they are the Star Trek nerds that they are, you know, of course they would have contingency plans. So
Yeah.
if they get to tribal council, Christian or Devens are at risk of going home. They see the writing on the wall. Then they can use it as a bluff, right? Oh, I just pulled this out. You guys can vote for me if you want, but I'm going to play this fake. I'm going to play this idol that they would assume is real, right? That's one way they could use it. Or is he just setting up a trap for someone to fall into, right? Is he leaving it in plain sight for someone else to discover, use, and then just blow up their game? And then, you know, he gets to laugh behind the background. It feels less strategic, but more fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also was like, well, this is risky. Like, what if another tribe goes to tribal council and then they find it and they're like, what is this? And Rick isn't around to explain what's going on. So then they're just like, what is happening? Yeah, I didn't see the full picture, but like I said, it was a nice cinematic moment of watching do that, whatever that was. Even when Sari was like, Christian, here, I'll lead. What are you doing? Are you okay?
No, they're gonna have to, like, the players are gonna insist that Christian gets medically evaluated after pooping his pants, falling over, and walking aimlessly out of tribal. Like, they're probably thinking Christian's head is not in the game, which maybe is just gonna, you know, be better for Christian's position in the game overall. He's really playing the fool, and I think everyone's believing it.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was. We'll see how it plays out. It was good.
My ship name for Christian and Rick Devens, by the way, is called the Devbinky Enterprise. I'm trying to make that stick. It's the
I like
ship
it.
from Star Trek, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm going with.
I like it. I support it.
Well, I gotta say, Taylor, I think that pretty much is gonna bring this to a close. Was there any other moments that really jumped out to you during this episode today?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up jumping because I really think we need to study people's diving form on Survivor. I don't know if other people are talking about this, but as I was taking notes for this exact episode, I was like, what in the world is happening? Who taught these people to dive? And I noticed it with a beautiful dive. Ozzy has the most beautiful dive off
Majestic.
The balance beam. Yes. I'm like, great, perfect. And then I watch everyone else plop into the water. And I was like, we need to help these people. Like, let's save you from this embarrassing moment on national television. Like, this is how you dive. And it's even funnier when they have to swim off and they all jump off. Like I watched Sheree totally assume a dive position and just fall.
No, this is every season. I'm always laughing at the people diving into the water because you think that you can figure out how to do a dive before you get on the show. But every season we see people jumping off in any way, shape, and form into the water. It is seriously one of the great joys of watching the show.
Yes. And I was a swimmer, so I can dive that
Okay.
do that thing. But like even if you're not diving and you are just jumping, please jump as a needle. Like what is the shape that you're all assuming? You look insane. Like yes, part of me, I will say, like, as I played water polo as well, like maybe the idea is if you don't jump as a pencil, you won't go as down as much. So you're like up faster. I
Mm.
don't know, but everyone looks absolutely insane unless you're Aussie. Steph had like a pretty good jump, but like everyone looks crazy.
Jonathan had the most beautiful dive of the episode, in my opinion. I mean, he covered all of the ground in his dive. I mean, that was textbook what you should do.
Yes. And I would love to shout out our little fish, Savannah, that clip of her going under for the rings. I was like, you look like a minnow. Like she was killing it.
Yeah, I caught that as well. I was like, she is on target right now. But the
Yeah.
difference of what it looked like her going to the rings versus Jonathan was night and day.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, before we get out of here, Taylor, I'm going to ask you to put your money where your mouth is and make a prediction. I want to hear your winner pick and then your next boot pick. Who do you think's going home in the next episode, and who do you
Oh
think is taking the money home?
my goodness. Okay, I have to confess that I hate picking winner picks and like I could never play Survivor fantasy football or fantasy Survivor ever because the games are so hard to predict. Who is
Well,
my
if you
winner
want,
pick?
I can go first. I can give you some time.
Please, please, please.
My next boot pick is going to be Chrissy. We saw one scene with Chrissy this episode, and it was multiple people saying that she's overbearing and being too much of a mom on the tribe.
I
You
did
know,
see
in the
that.
same way that Jenna went home, I think that Chrissy has also been aggressive with her strategy. I think that if we get a tribe swap in the next episode, which it looks like we will, I think that'll be an easy thing for people to point to in terms of getting someone off their tribe. So that's my boot pick. And you're not going to like my winner pick, okay? My winner pick, I've been consistent since before we started. I'm rooting for Coach. I think Coach is coming home with the W. If you look at his social media, he is very braggadocious right now. He's wearing nice clothes. He's got the energy of a winner. That's my winner pick.
I hate that. If I had to guess next boot, I well, it's so hard because we think that there's a tribe swap coming, and with that, like if there wasn't a tribe swap, I would probably say Joe is next. I imagine that tribe will continue to crumble.
Mhm.
That would be my guess. So maybe Joe. But if it's a swap and I'm just picking from anyone, Chrissy is a good guess based on editing. Like, yeah, we did get that scene where people are annoyed with her, so it's a nice little plant. Um, I don't know. I still think people are gonna like gun for Suri forever. So I think it's possible like she could be next.
I
For
could see
my
that
winner.
too. I could see it too.
Yeah, I think, and maybe like if she ends up on another tribe and they lose again, like I don't know, I would be like, hey, like there's a common denominator. Like, it's you, girl.
Yeah.
For my winner pick, I really want to say, I don't know. That's what's so hard about Survivor. It's never the person you think that's gonna win. I want to say it's Genevieve. I would love for it to be Genevieve. I didn't watch her original season, but the as watching her in episode 1, I was obsessed. Watching her this episode, also kind of obsessed. She seems to be like leading good conversation without being too loud. I don't think she has a big target on her back. I would want to say Christian as well, but I think Christian has a target on his back. He's too much of a character that something will crumble for him. Although, okay, wait, I also really want Charlie to win. As I like went back and looked at Charlie's season, like I love Kenzie, but like Charlie really should have won and Maria really screwed him over.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and so I'm actually kind of hoping because we haven't heard a lot from Charlie at all, period, that he has a big growth, a big peak in the middle and he goes on to win it. So I don't know. Those are my three. I know you said one, but those are the three.
That's good. Okay, Taylor is hedging her bets for her winner pick. I can appreciate that. I was big on Charlie coming into this season. But
Yeah.
he's had such a quiet edit so far. It's crazy. I don't think we even heard from him this episode. We barely
Yeah.
heard from him in the first episode. And so I'm confused about what's going on with Charlie. Same thing with Tiffany and Camilla and Dee this episode. We are not getting any attention on these specific new era players. And
No.
I think that if he won, we'd get a little bit more. It's suspicious that we've gotten nothing with Charlie. I do think if we're continuing to talk about the edit, Genevieve is in that sweet spot. We're not
Yeah.
getting too much Genevieve, but we're getting plenty of her, especially if you compare it to any of the new eras. I do think that edit is giving her a very solid kind of narrative, and she
For
could be the
sure.
winner pick based on that alone. I could see
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. They could be pulling a traders where like there are a lot of trader characters that don't get talked about until right before they're eliminated or something exciting happens. So we'll see.
How dare you bring up the traders now at the end of this conversation? You know I'm going to want to dive into the traders as well. Oh my goodness.
I'm so sorry. Rob Roush is the best player ever. And Mora.
Ooh, hot take. A hot take when we're talking about Cerise right now.
Oh,
That is a hot
okay.
take.
I didn't watch Cerise season. I will admit. I will fully admit that. I came into the game season 2, but
Well, it's one of them. That's the debate right now. Is it Suri or is it Rob? That's the hot debate right now on the trader streets. But before we get too derailed here, I think that is going to go ahead and bring this conversation to a close. Taylor, thank you so much for joining me. This was an
of
absolute
course.
blast. I
Yes.
love talking about Survivor, and you have made this a very enjoyable experience.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Have me back. Maybe let's see how my winner pick plays out, my winner picks. But this has been awesome.
Absolutely. Do you want to plug any socials for the people at home?
Socials, you can follow me at Tager Got Smart, all dots in between those words. But I really more than anything want to plug my Survivor improv show happening March 13th, 2026. I don't know, maybe you're watching this years later. um, Next Friday, we have our 3rd season. Our season 1 winner, Brian, is coming back. And it's going to be really awesome. And hopefully we'll have those throughout the year. Hopefully every other month. But I don't know. Stay tuned. More Survivor Improv coming at you.
Right on. And that is at the Corner Gallery. I'm going to have all the information on the screen as well. So yeah, can't wait to see that and see everything there. And yes, I would love to have you back on in the future. So yeah, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for watching another episode here on the Survivor podcast. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Whee!